The story begins in a romantic April day as the female protagonist of our story reaches her new house with all the luggage. She typically remembers the password she was told by her housemate, only to notice that the place is roomier than she imagined. She starts looking for the room she was given, and unfortunately, she walks into the room while our protagonist was busy watching some videos. As she suddenly loses her sanity and starts shouting, our guy flinches and manages to lose his earphones only to put it on speaker. He lost his balance, and she unusually notices something which makes her scream even more, as she doesn't want him to get closer to her. When she finally passes out, it becomes memorable for our guy, as this is the day they start living together. When she was interviewed for the employment as a game developer, she didn't seem to have any particular interest in anything. If that was not enough, she was the most nervous thing they have ever seen in an interview. Our guy tried to uplift her morale along with the help of his coworker, but they managed to make it look into a failure even more. Despite all the frustrating incidents in the interview room, they decided to hire her because of her broad portfolio as a game developer. But the idea of the girl vomiting inside a Viva room made him have the aftertaste of bitterness in her activities. Apart from all the awkwardness in the interview room, our guy hoped to stay positive because of all the motivation given by his coworker. Now, at the present, the nervous girl is barely coping with what she managed to unleash only after entering the house. MC lets him know about all the rooms and everything, and she keeps her head down while listening to him. No matter what happened between them, she decided to keep a positive mind, which made him feel a lot better. On the first day, she is introduced to all the coworkers in the whole company and gets a seat beside the protagonist. As she looks forward to working in the company, she notices how nice her supervisor is. And he even decided to help her out to start progressing. Even though she met him in an unfortunate moment, she notices how attentive he looks and feels like he is nicer than what she thought of him. Keeping all the shame away from her mind, she slowly looks at his fair share as if she has fallen in love with it. She begins to fantasize with our guy keeping it all out open to approach her while calling her name. Even on the weekends, Se-young doesn't seem to be happy since she wouldn't be able to get to work. While walking beside a couple, she fantasizes them doing naughty things together, and she cannot help but imagine dirty things in her mind, encouraged by her naughty mind. After gathering a lot of courage, she manages to throw away all the dirty ideas out of her mind like a baggage. But as she sits down on a bench, she feels the outcome of her dirty ideas, which are wrapping her around downwards. Thinking about her clothing routine due to her dirty mental situations, she manages to find a washroom near the place where she spends her precious time gulping down her own flavors. As she shocks her own mind, both angels on each side of her starts to debate what to do next. After an hour of perverted drama, she manages to reach the office premises, and the whole building looks somewhat empty. She manages to bump into Sunbae in the darkness, and he comes up to her to ask her why she is present in the weekend. Chatting with our guy, Se-young learns that she and him will be the only people coming to the office in a while, which makes her get some perverted thoughts as it crossed her mind beforehand. When she gets busy in her dirty thoughts, Sunbae's sudden calling startles the heck out of her. Both of them manage to spend the whole time looking at each other's work and praise each other for it. At the end of it all, they connect with each other like friends while walking at their house's direction while bonding. One day, Se-young was sitting in the middle of a huge meeting room along with the others. The only idea that was crossing her mind was she needed to buy some new clothes as she lost some of hers on the way to work while being busy with her daily handiwork. But instead of being ashamed of what she does, she thinks that the curious bystanders always inspire her to become the true king. As time passes, she realizes that she is out of her mind and loses her consciousness. When she finally finishes her dirty deeds, she begins to regret for what she has done in the verge of temptation, which starts to diminish her self-respect. As Sunbae comes up to her to talk to her, she starts to make gibberish reasons to make her reasons valid, even though it is far from the truth. After cleaning up, Sunbae asks Se-young to show him all the icons she made. And as soon as she opens up the computer, she almost loses her mind as the files seem corrupted. Sunbae's coworker lets them know about the deadline, and he asks her to test run with just the dummy files for now, which makes Se-young feel like shit. But both of them end up sitting together to wrap up the work. Se-young asks her mentor to leave and let her handle the rest, but he insists on helping out. Ji-young comes up to her to leave them some food and drinks, and Se-young successfully manages to wrap it up between 6. Seeing her mentor tired as hell, Se-young promises that she will become the best mentee possible and thinks of avoiding doing her dirty deeds while work. As soon as Sunbae wakes up from his nap, he apologizes to his mentee for falling asleep, only to notice that she is doing something under the desk. It seems that she has dropped her purse somewhere, but Sunbae notices something else more than her purse. At the end, both of them manage to wrap it up all for the day and think of leaving the office. Now, after reaching his bed, Sunbae is having a tough time reminiscing of what he had seen previously at the office. The pinkish blush of Se-young's cat feels unnerving to him, and his pillar cannot help but get hard like concrete. Suddenly, Se-young calls his name from the side of his bed and begins to whisper in his ears, which starts to startle him the worst possible way. Since he has been busy shaking his pillars, seeing Se-young, she thinks of setting up a punishment for him to tease him even more. As they wrap up the first round Se-young's way, Sunbae takes control of it all his own way, and it ends with the most fantastic moment possible, with Se-young swimming in white sauce. When Sunbae finally wakes up, he realizes that it all has been nothing but a wet dream, and he feels ashamed of himself. As it has already been late, he thinks of eating and feels like dealing with his dirty bed later. While walking down the living room, he notices Se-young sitting on the couch, and she offers him some fries, which relieves him since he had been feeling hungry for quite some time. Both of them sit together to watch Moon Wars and to eat fries she made for herself to pass the time. The whole time she continues to treat him the nicest way possible. He continues to think about her body as if he cannot get her out of his mind. Even while drinking beer, Sunbae continues to stare at her, and she is literally unable to even guess what has been going inside his mind. While Sunbae was fantasizing looking at her body, she herself notices it, and the idea of being watched starts to creep inside her mind like a pervert that she is. This time she realizes that she is not the only pervert, as even Sunbae has been staring at her from time to time, but she couldn't notice that our guy has managed to fall asleep on the couch as he managed to miss his sleep because of that dream. She feels like she has been the delusional one here, even though it doesn't stop her from acting weird. Suddenly, the idea of her making him suffer pokes in her mind, and she starts arranging the blanket to make him fall asleep in peace. When she finally gets busy with cleaning up and watching the movie, Sunbae wakes up and finds out that he has been daydreaming about his mentee once again. While brushing his teeth and picking up his mind together, Sunbae begins to wonder if he had been seeing things as he cannot believe his eyes. He feels like he has been losing his mind as Se-young is so shy that she managed to throw up in the interview, so it doesn't match with her personality. Sunbae gets spooked out while speaking it all loud when she finally comes around to let him know that she is leaving for work before him. Feeling sentimental for thinking all dirtily about her, Sunbae notices that Se-young has managed to prepare breakfast for him before leaving for work. He realizes that he couldn't have asked for a better housemate, but all he knows that something is fishy in this whole situation. As he had been single for the last 26 years of his life, he thinks of going to the bottom of this to find out the truth. Our guy is so desperate that he is reasoning that stalking is fine if he needs to get out the truth. While Sunbae wonders what she must have been doing as it can be something important, she is busy spinning the wheel alone in the workplace. As Sunbae starts to head in the direction of the company building to find out, Se-young thinks that it is worrisome that she cannot hold her horses. Suddenly, Sunbae barges into the room unexpectedly, and it startles the heck out of Se-young. Sunbae thinks that he had been worrying about nothing, and since she is nothing but a hard worker, she doesn't seem to be someone who will be doing something dirty beside him. But this whole time, Se-young is freaking out like a cat as she had set up her toy delivery into the company building, and she worries that her life will surely end if others find out. When the delivery man finally comes, she rushes to receive it before Sunbae could hold it for her, and it gives her a bit of relief. Taking out the toy in the break time, Se-young rushes into the washroom to put the toy into its own secluded place. While having multiple pleasing seizures and nosebleeds, she finally manages to put it into the place she had been targeting. On the other hand, Sunbae's female coworker is teasing him for the reason that he had been living with Se-young under the same roof. Even though she teases him for living with the most popular female employee in the company, Sunbae thinks that it is rather unnatural for him to think something dirty about the girl since she is rather cute and innocent. Only if he knew how cunning Se-young actually is, who is now busy assuming that she might lose her life over her dirty habits. She was busy having multiple nosebleeds while everyone was busy having their lunch. But our guy, who is rather innocent, thinks that he still has a lot of things to teach his mentee and is taking it all too purely. Even though he is jealous for the fact that he doesn't like other guys drooling over her, he claims that he cannot let that happen since she will start to lose her concentration in working. When the female coworker mentions the name of Hansu, it gets Sunbae even angrier than before, as if he is ready to be Se-young's white knight. Se-young remembers that she has scheduled a meeting after lunch and thinks of heading back, but her body is too weak to even walk, as she is barely able to stand after doing it 8 times in a row. Someone comes along the way all of a sudden, and he catches her while she was losing her balance. She is startled by the man's actions, as she didn't expect someone to help her out. It is none other than Hyun-soo, and he walks her all the way to her seat and advises her not to overwork. Even though he acts like a helpful person, he seems to be interested in taking advantage of Se-young. All this time, Sunbae sits alone and wonders if he will find out something about Se-young, and feels rather desperate over it.